you guys have been following my YouTube journey for quite some time, you know that I've used the Spanish language to navigate a few fun, interesting, and even dodgy situations. Whether it's negotiating a taxi ride to a random Moroccan neighborhood. ¿Cuánto dinero?
¿Cuánto dinero? Para ti. 20 dirham, no pasa nada.
Okay.
Partido Marruecos, España.
Marruecos ganó, madre mía.
Tu lengua no es español.
Americano.
Americano.
To smoking a strange plant in a dodgy Tangier cafe.
Hay bueno y hay malo del mundo.
Eso es típico antiguo. Antigua manera de fumar. To meeting cute policewomen in the Spanish enclaves of North Africa. Say, manda saludos a Wisconsin. Wisconsin. They're gonna show me an area and give me a little tour, so hopefully I don't get kidnapped by that Spanish policewoman. And even meeting the Latin love of my life in the least expected of places. Needless to say, learning the Spanish language has been super fun to share with you guys and all the adventures that it's brought us. And so, with that being said, one of the questions I get most on this channel is, Elliot, how the heck did you learn Spanish and speak it the way you do? Now, one way that learning Spanish has indirectly impacted and changed my life forever is the fact that I live right here in the beautiful city of Malaga in southern Spain. Sometimes I don't even know how the heck I ended up here, and of course this wasn't part of the plan. The plan was to study Spanish, and as an indirect result, I'm here. And I got countless other stories that you guys would love to hear, but those are topics for a different video. So I thought that I'd take a little walk here on the beach, explain my backstory, how the heck did I learn Spanish, and hopefully after watching it you can take some things away, apply these practices, these methods that I used to learn Spanish. Let's go take a walk. ¿Qué es la parte favorita tuya para vivir en Málaga?
Esta, la zona, los barrios nuevos, esto, la zona de la Villa Olímpica, todo eso, pero es la más cara.
Málaga muy denso, ¿eh? Aquí más espacio.
Esta zona es menos mala.
Sí, una maravilla.
Sí.
Bueno,
Venga,
hasta luego, señor.
Buen día.
As I mentioned earlier, learning Spanish has led me to meeting a Latin lover, my Venezuelan Spanish girlfriend of 3 years. When we met, she barely spoke any English and I spoke intermediate Spanish. Needless to say, this type of scenario can help you vastly improve your target language. Communication is fundamental in a successful relationship, and as you can imagine, communication for us hasn't been easy. I want to show you a fascinating tool that would have helped us overcome these communication differences. We received these Timekettle Edge Translator earbuds, which have 95% accuracy in 40 languages and 93 accents. These earbuds help translate our conversation simultaneously, and in my case, definitely help with important conversations. I put one earbud in one ear and she puts the other in her ear. Using the Timekettle app, we can have a conversation in our native languages in real time. So let's test it out and see how accurate this simul mode is.
So Carrie, it's true that over the years, we've been together for 3 years, our language and our miscommunication has been a fundamental problem in our relationship.
Creo que no hemos tenido un problema de comunicación, sino en la comunicación. Creo que a veces no entendemos lo que quiere decir el otro, o en la traducción en algún momento perdemos lo que queremos decir. Es un problema de relaciones de diferentes culturas. Bueno, creo que algo que compartimos las latinas y las españolas es que somos cercanas, que nos gusta el contacto físico, que nos gusta que sean caballerosos. Bueno, creo que eso es más de las latinas que de las españolas, es algo importante. Y la comunicación. Las españolas y las latinas hablan mucho.
It's true, like if you can't share language and share culture and understand the nuances of the language, it will be impossible to have a real relationship.
Es cierto, pero creo que cuando estás con una persona de una cultura diferente, intentas meterte más en su cultura, aprender de esa persona, aprender qué le gusta, aprender cómo tradicionalmente son en su cultura, y creo que eso es parte de estar con una persona de otro país, porque amas a esa persona y terminas amando a su país también.
Absolutely. So over the years, I've learned to appreciate and like and even love Venezuelan culture, but also we share a passion for Spain together because we live here in Malaga, and it's something that's kind of never ending. Like, I still have so much more to learn about you because you grew up in such a different situation than where I'm from in Wisconsin, United States.
I think these earbuds would be particularly useful for expats who immigrate to a new country or for people who travel to places like Southeast Asia or Arabic-speaking countries where the language is completely different from English. It would also be useful in an international business setting to negotiate sales, contracts, or legal situations. I definitely recommend them, and Carrie and I will be using them way more in the future.
Now, before I discuss the methods that I use to learn over the years, I do want to say there is no magic app, no magic teacher, no short or magic amount of time that one can pick up a language and learn like that and become fluent. That's not how it works. Now, there are two important words. I call them the double D words. Not the double Ds that you see here on the beaches of southern Spain, because they're topless beaches here, which is not strange at all. It is called desire and dedication. I gotta turn my camera because, yeah, there actually was a topless girl. Anyways, desire and dedication. To learn anything and to persist, obviously you have to have a strong desire, dedication, and passion, a curious, crazy fascination with whatever you're learning in order for you to become an expert at it or master it. And so I gotta give you some backstory on how I became obsessed with the Spanish language. It was never part of the plan. So let me explain. I'm from a small town in northern Wisconsin. It's called Ladysmith, Wisconsin. I was forced to take 2 years of high school Spanish, which ended up being rather important. But the attitude behind learning Spanish in Ladysmith, Wisconsin, a small town, was, why the heck do you need to learn a language? Well, in this case, to get into the university. But I didn't really care. I didn't have the attitude. I was sort of a product of the environment. Spanish, I was never gonna go to Costa Rica or Spain. That was a figment of my imagination. Well, anyways, I was fortunate enough to learn like the present tense and past tense and some vocabulary, grammar, conjugations, etc. Hopefully you guys can hear me with this water here. I'm gonna move up here so you can hear me better. Fast forward to the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire in the year of 2013. I basically thought I would never study Spanish again until I got an invite by my German friend, who you guys have actually seen in a few videos of mine in Bulgaria and Germany, etc., Johannes. He invited me to go on a backpacking trip to Cancun, the Yucatan Peninsula, essentially. And so I took up Spanish level 1 because remember in high school, I didn't give a shit about Spanish. Therefore, I bombed the placement test and I was placed in the most basic low-level Spanish course. In retrospect, that was a very dumb idea because I lost out on expensive credits that I could have gotten had I actually taken the exam seriously. But anyways, I digress. So I go to the Spanish in University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, and it was just like way too easy for me. Again, nobody else cared about being there. They were just obliged by the university, the general education system. And I had a professor by the name of Sarah Molitor who had lived and studied Spanish here in Spain. And she would just talk about Spain. She would talk about her experiences. She was a socialite and she was an amazing woman. And she said to me, Elliot, this is way too easy for you. You need to pursue Spanish and business. And you know what? I like the fact that I could just like see tangible results when I took the basic Spanish 101. So of course I signed up for Spanish 102 and of course it was a very easy class again for me, and I went to Mexico. I got to Mexico and I said, holy crap, I don't know anything they're saying. I thought I knew because I took Spanish 1 and 2, but I didn't know jack shit. But I just remember seeing people, Americans or other foreigners abroad, having bilingual conversations like as their second or third language, and I go, man, I want to do that. Like that's what I want. I want to be able to travel and live these experiences, because that was the first time I had left the country, and it was the best thing I ever did because it lit this fire inside of me of, wow, maybe I don't belong in northern Wisconsin for the rest of my life. And I wanted to be able to communicate with the people, and it just so happened I was in Mexico and I had to learn Spanish. Another important thing happened that fueled my desire, and that was I love palm trees, I love beaches, I love tropical, subtropical climates. And so when I went back to the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, I was totally depressed that I had lived this amazing experience and I couldn't continue to do it because one just can't continue to travel. You have to study, you have to make money, etc. So I continued to take another Spanish class, which was rather easy. And I found this program in Costa Rica. Remember, I loved the jungle. I loved geography, landscapes, volcanoes, animals. And so I signed up for this program in Costa Rica, and it was one of the programs that required intermediate Spanish. And so in 2015, packed up my bag, went to a 2-month immersion program in Costa Rica. where again, I was still a pretty novice speaker. I improved, I lived with the host family, I became close to that host family. But the thing is, I deepened my desire to continue to want to communicate, to learn Spanish, to live these experiences that quite frankly, no one in my circle, my family, my friend group in northern Wisconsin could relate with. Not even the people that I studied abroad with. They couldn't relate with the things that I was feeling that I wanted to do, maybe to a certain degree, but I was clearly the odd one out, the one who, if I would have made this YouTube channel years ago, this would be at millions of subscribers perhaps, because I was having incredible experiences. And so I fell in love with Costa Rica, with this host family, so much that every winter break between semesters, I went back to Costa Rica. It sort of became my purpose because I wasn't a very happy person from the years 2015 to 2018, 2019. I was going through a lot of depression, but the one thing that kept me alive was my desire to learn the Spanish language, to feel a sense of purpose and belonging. And so, yeah, I went to Costa Rica 5 times, and I always thought that my journey was going to lead me to Costa Rica, perhaps permanently. Spain was never part of the plan, but all throughout these years, 2015 to 2019, my trips to Costa Rica and subsequent trips to Panama, to Colombia, yeah, I just became enamored with the Spanish language, and I sort of developed this, well, people who are bilingual know this double personality, right? Where you form relationships and social constructs and ways of communicating that don't exist perhaps in your native language. I graduated from the university in 2018, and I went to Milwaukee, Wisconsin to look for work, perhaps in a bilingual position of some sort. And it was there that I met a lady, a young lady, who told me about this program of English assistance in Spain. Of course, I had looked for opportunities in Latin America, like the Peace Corps. Most of them were volunteer positions that required you to work your butt off, not get paid too much, and not make any money. And so that was a turnoff for me. Of course, I was interested in volunteering for the Peace Corps. It was like right up my alleyway, right? That's kind of the person I am. But I found this program in Spain. I applied, I got accepted. I got placed at a school in Madrid, packed my bags, flew to Madrid, got lucky, met someone from Miami, and he introduced me to his other friend from Miami. We ended up living together in southern Madrid. That was my first year, and then the pandemic came, and I was left with the decision. Do I go back to the United States, having learned some more Spanish, not the level I'm at now, because I had about 8 months in Spain, which was the goal, right? I wanted to come to Spain, get paid for my work, and vastly improve my Spanish and try out Europe, right? Because Spain is very different than Latin America in terms of the living standards and adventures and safety and all that stuff, which I've touched on in other videos. Or do I stay in the pandemic and continue this journey in Spain and see where it leads me, right? Because we were locked down in Madrid, it was hard. In fact, I did an interview during that time with Stuart from Spain Speaks about this program that I did and my journey, right? And there's another pivotal moment in my process of learning Spanish that also is very important because it helped me learn a lot of Spanish, and that was I met my lovely girlfriend, Carrie, who you just saw. Now, I met her at a grocery store, and she didn't speak English at the time, very, very, very little English, and so we developed a relationship, we fell in love, and our relationship was in Spanish. So that is like the biggest factor in this whole process. But anyways, I decided to stay in Madrid, did year 2 with the pandemic, with the mask. It was a disaster, but I still continued to learn Spanish. And then I started to do these YouTube videos in English. Of course, in the YouTube videos, I speak Spanish a lot to interact with the locals, but this was for you guys, this audience, in English. And the 2 years in Madrid were up, and so I had to apply to a new region in Spain, and this region that I applied for was Andalusia, and by the grace of God, they put me in Malaga. So that's how I ended up in Malaga. It was honestly sheer luck. Carrie, my girlfriend, came with me, and for 2 years now I've been in Malaga, learning Andalusian Malagueño Spanish, Español Andaluz Malagueño. And it's been quite a fun journey. So that's basically how I learned Spanish. If you're struggling with the desire element of learning a new language, well, you got to think of a way that learning a new language, or any skill for that matter, can be Do you want to move and live in Spain? Do you want to be able to use your bilingual skills to sell a product? Do you want to be able to date and meet people from different countries? Those are very important and fundamental in further establishing that desire that comes from within. And so after that desire is established, the first step in learning a new language, in this case Spanish, is basic education. So this could mean 1 or 2 semesters of college Spanish or high school Spanish, or downloading a language app, because what you want to learn are the very basic verb conjugations and grammar, future tense, present tense, and past simple tense. Because once you know the patterns that they follow, the verb conjugations, for example, it's just a matter of learning more vocab and just like hammering it away. Now, personally speaking, this is my least favorite thing of learning a language. I'm not a huge fan of paying loads of money for college credits and Spanish accreditation, none of that. No, these are things you can do for free. However, paying for a class gives you incentive to have to finish it, etc. So if you're thinking, Elliot, there's just way too many verb conjugations, way too many things to remember, well, you're actually not alone. There's a lot more conjugations in Spanish than there are in English, and it is quite difficult. But I want you just to relax, simplify it, and think of the verbs in the language that you would possibly use in an everyday conversation. So you really want to focus on mastering the most common verbs, such as to have, which is tener, such as to be, which is ser o estar, or the verb to be able to, which is poder, or the verb to go, which is irse. So once you master those verbs that you use in so many contexts, you can go from there. And then instead of trying to translate word for word, which is really hard in real time, and it's gonna give you those awkward pauses when you're trying to have a conversation with someone, you can focus on common phrases with those verbs that I just told you. For example, if you wanna say, I need to go to the bathroom, or I have to go to the bathroom, a common expression is tengo que, which means I have to. Tengo que ir al baño. Tengo que ir a casa. Tengo que editar videos de YouTube. So I'm gonna put a list of all these common expressions and the verbs that I just mentioned in the description. And additionally, I do wanna recommend a Spanish teacher that I've used, that I trust, and that I actually know in person. And he's from right here in Malaga, Spain. His name is Spanish with Vicente. I've done a couple interviews with him, and he's a really good professor with Spain Spanish and just Spanish in general. When you learn all these Spanish expressions, they're gonna be understood anywhere in the Spanish-speaking world. Colloquial Spanish is, of course, a different topic. Now, if you really just wanna learn Spanish from a different country that's not Spain, well, it's just as easy as going on social media, on YouTube, on Instagram and TikTok, and searching learn Mexican Spanish, and you're gonna have tons of free resources and professors pop up. We literally live in the best time when it comes to online free resources. And I do wanna show you one last thing before we move on to the next topic. Mira esto. Now remember, once you start studying these basic grammatical concepts and vocabulary, if you don't use it, you will lose it. But at the same time, give yourself plenty of time, give yourself rest. You don't want to overload, but remember, if you don't use it, you will lose it. For example, on my recent trips to Bulgaria and last year to Morocco, I spent a few weeks studying phrases, random vocabulary, useful things for those trips. And during the trip, I remembered almost all of them. I had a list with me anywhere I went. But I've since forgotten a lot of those words that I studied. By the way, check this out, very beautiful here. Now, the next important part of learning a new language is, of course, the I word, immersion. Now, immersion doesn't mean that you have to go and pick up and move to a different country like I did, or spend thousands of dollars to study abroad for a semester, or even go on vacation for an extended period of time. Ultimately, if you get to that point, that would be awesome. Perhaps that's a reason you're watching this video and it's one of your dreams. But immersion can be as simple as listening to podcasts, listening to music, going to Spanish language exchange. Say you live in Chicago, you can definitely go to meetups, or in a big city like Minneapolis, Milwaukee. There's tons of places. Maybe it's watching Netflix in Spanish and using English subtitles. Whatever it is, you have to start to train your ear and spend several hours a week, which is tied in with the first part, the basic education, to continue to improve and get your ears used to hearing. Now, in my case, my first immersion was my study abroad experience, which was 2 months in Costa Rica. And man, that was quite a shock. I got there with intermediate sophomore level Spanish. I thought that I knew more than when I went to Mexico, which I did. But basically, I was totally, not only culture shock, but just like my ears were not ready for what changes came. I could only say things like, me gusta el béisbol, or me gusta la selva, or tengo hambre. it was really bad, and my host family didn't speak a lick of English, and it was quite a struggle. But that is the most immersive experience one can go through, right? Being forced to listen. All you hear around you is Spanish for hours and hours and hours, and it turns into weeks and then months, sometimes even years. And basically what that does is it gets your ears to relax. Your brain is used to taking in that information. Don't get me wrong, it is tiring at first. There were days that I was just totally wiped out and I couldn't think anymore. I couldn't think, what the heck am I saying? How do I say this in Spanish? But the point is I was listening, I was seeing the signs, everything was in Spanish. The music that my host mom would listen to was in Spanish. And it was such a transformative experience. And I remember after about 2 weeks of culture shock, my ears and my brain started to get accustomed to hearing Spanish. And of course, after many years in Spain, hearing Spanish anywhere I go, I don't get tired anymore. My brain is totally adapted. But that's what immersion does. It totally trains your brain to hear something else and to be like, what the heck is going on? And you get over that confusion, you get over that fatigue, that mental fatigue. And that is a huge process in learning. Now I want to give you some tips in terms of immersion and what you can do. Some very, very good practices. Listen to a Spanish speaking artist like Julio or Enrique Iglesias, Bad Bunny, J Balvin. Go on YouTube and type in their songs and put lyrics or karaoke translation, so you can hear them sing, you can hear the words come out of their voice, you can see the lyrics on the screen. And these are practices that you can do that are immersive. They train your ears, they train your reading at the same time. And then if you're feeling adventurous, you can even sing along with them. That's a great method. Say your Spanish is improving, you can start reading articles in Spanish, right? So choose an article or choose a topic or a news source that you always follow in your native language. Say it's New York Times, right? And they're talking about politics. Well, naturally you're more inclined to know what the context is. If it's about Joe Biden, if it's about the pandemic, if it's about the war in Israel and Palestine, well, you're more inclined to understand the context to those types of articles or those news outlets. And therefore, when you read it in Spanish, you already sort of have an idea of what they're talking about. And it's a great way to learn vocabulary. Again, it is not easy because you're gonna have to constantly look up words. You can of course use Google Translate. There's an automatic translator in the Google Chrome. But again, more immersion. This doesn't require you to study abroad. So we have karaoke, we have music with lyrics on YouTube. Spotify even has lyrics. Take an even further step. Go listen to basic Spanish beginner podcasts, all in Spanish. They're gonna speak super clear. And if you have a preference, well, I wanna go to Spain. I wanna hear the Spain Madrid accent. Or I wanna hear someone from Colombia or someone from Mexico. You can literally type in podcast basic Spanish Mexico, or you can type the same thing in on YouTube. The point is that the resources and the basic education and the forms of immersion are endless. Now, the next step, do everything you can to save up money, right? You should be using this desire and motivation and passion for learning another language to save up for that vacation that you've always wanted to take, whether it's coming to here in Spain, the southern coast, or going to Mexico, right? This is a method, this is a skill that you're gonna learn that's gonna improve your life in so many ways, and it's gonna make you wanna save more money. Once the desire and the curiosity is there and you've taken the basic actions, you've done basic education, maybe you've even taken a trip abroad, it's time to take it to the next step and add on to what you're already doing. So that means more immersion. That means changing your phone settings to Spanish perhaps. That means dedicating yourself to reading articles every single day, or constantly listening to music on your way to work and back, listening to podcasts every day, having WhatsApp conversations with the beautiful Colombian you met abroad, or the nice Spanish lady you met here on your vacation in Malaga. Any way you can find immersion, you have to do it. Then you have to look for opportunities to find yourself coming to a place like Malaga, Spain on vacation, whether it's 3 months a year because you can get a remote job, anything like that. Saving up and taking long backpack trips and just getting constant immersion. Because what happens once you learn another language is you start to discover more interests, more passions, and more journeys in life. So the fact that I learned Spanish, right, and became fluent, it's led me to open a YouTube channel in Spanish. So now I have a YouTube channel that's not only for you guys in English, but a whole channel that I dedicate to a Spanish speaking audience, and I make videos completely in Spanish. And that's just another way of education, immersion, studying. I constantly have to quiz myself and learn new words. I have to read about new things, inform myself so that I can present on these topics in Spanish. And you guys, it is not easy. It's taken me several years. I would say I've been studying Spanish consistently since the year 2015. So what, that's 8 years, 4 years living abroad. And I'm not a native Spanish speaker, but I can confidently say that I've became fluent in Spanish, and it's changed my life in ways that I could have never imagined, like living here in the beautiful city of Malaga and bringing you guys one of these videos on how I learned Spanish, and hopefully you guys can do the same. So I'll see you from another place in the European continent. Until the next video, Adventure Elliot peacing out. Hasta luego. Wow, check out this art here. Pureza. All Black Lives Matter. Interesting. Politics spread throughout the whole world. Who would have thought?